Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the channel. For those of you who don't know, I'm Budak Clone, and if you're new here, thanks for showing up, right? I appreciate you joining the ride. Now, with that being said, today, I'm gonna be talking about this special thing right here. This is my KP Mini 150. This is originally a 150. I bought it, only had 10 miles on it. 10 miles. Cool. Right now, I'm at 1,000 miles. I'm actually at specifically 1,004 miles. So, with that being said, I am about to jump straight into doing this 1,000-mile review. Bear with me, it's my first scripted video. As you can see, I have the phone in my hand because I'm actually bouncing between looking at the camera and looking at the script. I'm going off script, but it is what it is. I'm just gonna jump straight in, right? Here it is, the build that's turned a humble KP Mini 150 into a mean, lean, riding goddamn machine. Not only do we have a 300cc 4-valve engine that bolted straight in with minimal modifications, but the bike is now an absolute statement of style. Right, you see the stretch. Yeah, I see the stretch. You see the little rack. 300, you see the little wing. Oh, you cool, all that extra shit. Now it's an absolute statement of style and performance. I'm gonna just jump straight into the next section, which is going to be the mods, right? So, with that being said, I'm gonna point out every single mod, and I'm gonna tell you how easy it was to install from 1 to 10, and basically if it's worth it or not. So, let's just jump straight in. For the record, none of this is going in order of modifications, meaning I'm not going to tell you what I did first and all that, like in order, but I will definitely tell you the first thing I did was installed this 300cc 4-valve Zongshin ZS175FMN. Right? You see that right there? That's the stamp. That's the stamp you want to look for. This engine right here is the 5-speed variant. There's two options. You got the 6-speed counterbalanced 300 4-valve, or you got the 5-speed non-counterbalanced 4-valve. I got the 5-speed because when I was looking, it looked like it bolted straight in. Luckily for me, I was damn near right. With that being said, on a scale of 1 to 10, installing this engine, being honest with you, just because of my setup with different fitment things and stuff like that, realistically, if you wanted to just put the engine in and not go with the carb setup that I went with, the engine bolts straight in. The only modification I had to do to get this engine to bolt in was just this mount hole right here. I had to bore it down some just so I can get the bolt to actually go through the case, but it is still on the actual engine mount itself. 1 out of 10, as long as you have a jack and wheel. As long as you have a jack and wheel. Not a wheel, but you have will. Like you're willing to do this. I would say this is about a 6. It's about a 6 out of 10 modification. It's not the most excessive mod that I've done to this. Like there are other things that I've done where I've had to actually figure it out, but realistically I got this figured out pretty quick. So yeah, I say 6 out of 10. Next modification I want to talk about is going to be the Pro Taper Metal Militia. Pro Taper Metal Militias. Now, me personally, honestly, I wanted a set of these for this bike in gold, right? When I got this bar at the time, they didn't have them in stock, so I ended up just going with the Pro Taper Evo for this bike. Cool. Finally got a chance to get me some Metal Militias. I seen them on my boy's YZ400F, and from that day I knew I wanted them. He had the blue ones on his, and I'm just like, yo, them shits look dope. Anyway, 1 out of 10 on modification. Well, difficulty for modification. Realistically, I don't have the holes drilled out for the dowel pins on either side, so they do rotate. You could put tape under there if you don't want to drill it out. But realistically, I'm gonna call that an easy 3. That's about an easy 3. And the only reason why I say that is because realistically, it's 4 bolts. You take off the 2 at the top, the bar comes off, right? Cool. And then you just loosen everything that's on there. Now, with that being said, pro tapers, they come with grips. So, yeah. Now, gonna move on to the next thing. While I'm here, I'm gonna talk about these bar ends. So basically, I'm actually trying to find a set that actually screws directly into the bars. So I just have to figure out the thread pitch because these bars do have a thread in them. But this is the one where it actually squeezes for the rubber to actually like expand. With that being said, they are a little bit finicky. Not really my favorite thing on the bike, but I mean, if it does fall or whatever, I mean, at least the ends will be good. Realistically, difficulty 1 out of 10. It's a 1. It's a 1. Next, we're gonna talk about the combination. So I got the Kimimoto. If it focuses, got the Kimimoto shorty clutch lever along with the nibby clutch cable, right? Now that combination gives me a very, 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 very crisp clutch feel. Now with that being said, I'm gonna just come on over here to the clutch side so you can see I'm just touching it. Like as soon as I touch it, so yeah. Ease of install on the Kimimoto. That was about a realistically a 1, 2 at most. Cool. On the nibby clutch cable, so the thing with the nibby clutch cable is it's actually longer, which is fine. So you just have to figure out routing. There's that as well as adjustment. 1 out of 10 on difficulty. I call it maybe a 3 realistically because we all know the struggles of trying to get the little eyelet in the actual lever and all that. So yeah, we all know those struggles. Cool. I actually almost forgot about this one. So basically this is just another brake lever that I actually had off of my E-Monster, which only thing I did was just take out that single bolt and just swap the whole thing. Now originally to actually get this to actually work, because this side, if I'm remembering correct, was actually no, this is the brake side. It was the clutch side that was actually flipped upside down. But either way, ease of install. So only thing I actually had to do, actually no, it wasn't this one. So yeah, this one just bolted straight up. 1 bolt, I called it a 1 out of 10. Next up, I'm gonna talk about this doofy ass custom clutch cable bracket. Now with this engine, this bracket right here originally is mounted right here. Now with this bike, that just wasn't gonna work out. Now with that being said, I ended up having to come up with something so I could hold it in place while I'm pulling the clutch, because last thing I need is for anything to happen and I don't have access to my clutch. Now I just used some brackets that I had lying around, which realistically I know it's not the prettiest thing. It's functional over form here. Now ease of install, 1 out of 10. Realistically, just for me, my setup, I'm gonna say it was more like a 3, and that's mainly because I had to just figure out what I was gonna use as a bracket. Next up, while I'm still up here, I'm gonna talk about the Motion Pro Rev 3 variable rate throttle. Now this throttle has different cam rails, which, give me 1 second, I'm actually pulling them out for you. Now with this Motion Pro Rev 3 variable rate throttle kit, this kit is actually for that bike, but I digress. I'm not gonna talk about that. I'm actually waiting for the throttle tube and cable to come in for this bike. It also should be a variable rate, but it's a nibby. I'm not gonna talk about that until it actually comes in. I'll talk about what's on here. Now currently this kit is the Grom kit, which comes with the road race cam rail which would be this one right here. And it also comes with these 4 as well. It does not come with the off-road one, only the road race. Now, I haven't tried any of the other ones out yet, which maybe I actually should. Maybe I should give them a shot. But basically, when you put the throttle cables in, I'm not sure if it's actually gonna fully pick up on camera or not. But inside of the cam, like you see this yellow one is high and this red one is low. So yeah, there's differences in how much throttle you actually get while you're actually giving it throttle. Cool. Ease of install, 1 out of 10. I actually have a whole video dedicated to me installing this setup on that bike. If you want to check that out, it's the Motion Pro Rev 3 install part 1 and part 2. I also installed the FCR carb on that bike as well at the time, so that was part 2. But with that being said, ease of install, I'm gonna call this realistically a 4. And the only reason why I'm gonna say a 4 is just because of making sure that the cables are adjusted, making sure the cables are lubed, and making sure that they're not rubbing on anything. So basically it's just fitment realistically. Next up on our list, I'm gonna shoot straight over to the exhaust. Now, this exhaust right here is a CB190R exhaust. For those of y'all who keep asking me what exhaust I have on this bike, it is a CB190R exhaust. It does not bolt straight up. I'm just letting you know. It does not bolt straight up, okay? It's about as close as I could find. To an exhaust that would bolt up. Now, I'm gonna just go over a couple things. So originally, this exhaust, the header pipe itself sticks out to like somewhere over here. It will still be in the pipe, but I ended up cutting it short to like somewhere around here. Cool. This pipe came all the way over, all the way out, and it was like all the way back here. So I cut a lot of that off. And then it was just a matter of figuring out what angle I wanted it to be at. Cool. Now, it's still not completely on. Here's why. So, let me see if I can actually get this to focus in on it. Now, you see how it actually looks like it's cocked? Because it is. The top bolt is really what's holding it in. Not to say the bottom bolt isn't holding it in, but my flange is not straight with the head. Running a double gasket in there just to make sure that it's not going to leak too much. Last I remember, I don't even think it's really leaking. But yeah, with that being said, ease of install, at least for my modification, I'm going to call this one I'm going to say more of a 6. Now, here's why I'm going to say a 6, because there's still some work that needs to be done on this exhaust to actually make it a bolt-on exhaust. That's all. I don't have the equipment to do that, so I actually have to pay somebody to do that if I could find somebody. That's the thing, if I could find somebody. Now, while I'm here, I'm going to slide on over here to this red muffler. This is also a part of the exhaust. It did not come with that exhaust, but I had to figure out what muffler I was going to run on this bike. I wanted to go with something that was small because at the time when I had put this on, I was running a shorty muffler like this, but it was a fatter can. And I was scraping everywhere. Cool. So, came across this one. It is a slimmer can, but I mean, as you can see, I do still kind of bottom out on it. Ease of install on that. That's an easy one. That was easy. It just right on. It comes with the baffle, which the only thing is, at least with my setup, sometimes the baffle will rattle in the muffler. And that's just because it's not being pushed into the muffler by the exhaust because of the angle. Like I said, it does not bolt straight up. Next up on the list is actually going to be a smaller list in itself. Pop the seat off and get to explain it. So, I got the HKS mushroom filter, which is for a car. Got a 90-degree intake elbow, which is also for a car. I got the FCR 35 with a R&D flex jet and a quick shot 3 on it. Got the, I think this was the Nibby straight intake boot. And also have an inline fuel filter that I actually added. Now, why did I just list everything like that? Because that's actually kind of like one package thing. So I had to figure out fitment on the carburetor. Cool. Then I had to figure out the intake side of it. Like, how am I inducting this air into the engine? For a little bit, I was actually riding around filterless, and then I ended up riding around with just a straight, not a 90, it was just a straight rubber boot. Now, the thing with this was, it was figuring out, finding the parts that was going to work. That was the most difficult thing about this. It was finding parts that were going to work together with each other, right? Inline fuel filter, that's something I already had. I'm just going to call that a 1. You just put the filter on, inline, and then, yeah, that's it. Cool. Petcock on off. You see the fuel go in. It's clear. It looks like water. The combination of the carb, the elbow, and the air filter, I'm going to call that whole combination, just the install, I'm gonna say it's about a 6, mainly because you see stuff like this. I'm using this to actually hold this plastic onto this plastic, because I actually had to cut out the mount that was right here, because I had to cut out the part that was under here that held the mount because of the carburetor, and then I had to grind. So it's a lot of fit and finish here, right? Cool. Now, the R&D Flex Jet, it was a little bit difficult, just a little bit. And it wasn't even like it was difficult. What made it difficult was the fact that to install it, you kind of actually have to take off the bowl to get that screw out, because you can unscrew it all the way and you can keep tapping the carb to try to get it to come out. It just didn't come out. Took the bowl off, it finally came out, and then I put the R&D Flex Jet in. Cool. Ease of install on that one, I'm just gonna say a 3, just because of the fact that you have to take off the bowl. Cool. Quick Shot 3, that just bolted straight up. I'm gonna call that a 1. Now, let me swing back over here, because the FCR carb does come with a remote idle adjuster screw, right? But it's not this long. With that being said, I did have a few of them, because as well on that build I'm running an FCR, so I was looking at different options. I have an extra long one that I'm specifically running on that bike, and then this was a medium one, so the medium length one worked perfectly for where it's at, so it's where it's at. Ease of install, I'm gonna call that a, realistically, is figuring out a bracket. As long as you can figure out a bracket and a mounting location, it bolts right up. I'm just gonna say a 2, just mainly because you have to figure out where you're gonna mount it and what you're gonna mount it with. Next up on our list is going to be spark. So right now I'm currently running an E3.38 spark plug. Now, ease of install, that's a 1. It just goes right in. Only thing is with the KP, actually no, I'm lying. Only because of how this engine is set up, right? With the KP, you have to take this plastic off, and you need a slim socket to get in here. It has to be slim, because if it's too fat, you're not gonna get it on. That's about the only thing. I just personally wish that was a little bit wider, just so I could actually comfortably get a socket in there. What did I say that was? A 1, 2 out of 10? It's a 1. It's a spark plug. Cool. Now, this is actually a Nibby ignition coil, which that's a 1. It just bolts right up. This cable right here, split fire twin core, is supposed to have 2 cores in here versus 1. Now, ease of install, it's a 1. It just went right into the ignition coil, and then yeah, it just goes right on the goddamn spark plug. And while I got the seat off, I'll talk about a few other things. So what you'll see right here is a battery monitor, which it actually has an app and everything. Only thing I have to actually do is open up my phone, which I don't even think I have it on my phone that I'm actually holding in my hand. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to see if I can pull this up. Nope, it's on the phone I'm recording on. So yeah, what I'll do is I'll actually overlay the display of the app on the screen, so then that way y'all can get an idea of the functions of it. And I'll actually do a voiceover on that part, so then that way I can explain what I'm doing in the video. Ease of install. You just have to figure out how you want to run it. Now, I'm only running it like this because with my bikes, I decided to give each of them this connection on the battery, so then that way I can just change this to each bike. Didn't really feel the need to buy multiple of them, just because I can literally do this. I'm one person. I'm riding one bike at a time, so it is what it is. Ease of install. As long as you know wiring, because that's about the gist of it. As long as you can do some wiring, it's a 1. If you can't, because it ain't even really doing any wiring, you just want to give it power and ground directly from the battery. It's just a matter of having the materials around. You need eyelets. That's about it. You just need eyelets and wire crimpers. But I'm just gonna say, maybe if you're not too familiar with wiring, I'll call it a 3. Then, all right, so today I'm gonna go over the Ansel BM200. This is my battery monitor. So this morning when I went to actually start the bike, it didn't want to start up. I was curious as to why. I had to actually jump it, so I'm actually going to show you the crank test on it. So you can't see what I'm doing outside of the app, but you can actually see what I'm doing on the app. So here I go. You can hear it. Charging test. Sometimes I have to actually start to rev it up. Not sure why. So now I'm curious as to So I think what's happening is my new head unit might actually be draining my battery, because last I checked my battery was at 88%. That was actually a couple days ago. So what I might have to start doing is, like, at the end of the day, I might have to actually disconnect it. Let me see how it starts this time. Did give me a better start, but yeah. So this is how the battery app works. Unfortunately, right now I can't show you the charging, but as you can see, I do have results from before. Now the only thing is, at that time, that was March 10th right here, it's showing that I was actually overcharging. So yeah, but like I said, that was the last time I actually checked. Right now it's not letting me. What we have next is going to be the oil cooler. Not oil cooler, I'm sorry about that. This is actually the oil catch can. Oil cooler's up front, catch can under the seat. Catch can. Now with this one, it was figuring out a location for it, which I still am gonna have to figure out a location for it, only because I got some plans in mind for this bike. I'm gonna have to figure out locating or relocating a few things. Fitment is the number one issue with this, only because I can't run the filter right at the top of the catch can to let it breathe. So I have it routed like this. Now, initially, I know you probably see the smushed filter. That's because of previously, I actually had it hanging out. I forgot there's a hole right here, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, right there. I had it actually coming out the hole and it, you know, got squished. Now, this one actually has 2 inlets and 1 outlet, along with the breather at the top. So if I'm not mistaken, this is actually an oil separator catch can. And I'm just gonna say ease of install. I currently only have the 1 hose coming directly from the crankcase going into the catch can, which I should actually check this out today just to see if anything is in there. But ease of install, I'm gonna call it realistically maybe a 4, maybe a 5. And like I said, that's mainly because of fitment and location. If you can find a spot on your bike to put a catch can, I suggest it. Just because I know some people have mentioned that their bikes were spinning oil or doing this, that, and the third. So I can suggest a catch can. One thing I did forget to mention is, I know y'all probably looking like, what is that on the wire? It's a heat protector. So you use these on cars. Once again, there's another car part. But yeah, ease of install, it's a 1. You literally just, when you're changing it, you just slide these on. So I got 1 down here, and I also have 1 up top, just to make sure that you know, nothing happens to my wire. Now, if you'll notice, these gray spots are actually from the heat of when it was touching the engine. While I'm right here and I got the camera right here, I got this Chimera kickstart cover. It just goes right on. There's a screw that keeps it in place. That's an easy 1 out of 10. Oof. Before I forget, while I'm back here, got this rack. So this one actually came off of my little Monster when I originally bought that one. I just took it off immediately because I had no need for it on that bike. But I got plans for this bike, so it just is what it is. I put a rack on here. I took off the little handle, the hand grip, you know the handbar. Cool. Took that off. Now, to make this work, as you can see, that was the original mounting hole, and this was the original mounting hole. So right now, if I really wanted to, I could actually put this back onto a Grom clone, and it should just bolt right up. But I do plan on cutting it over here or whatever, and yeah, making it flush. Cool. Ease of install. You just have to have a drill bit and patience. Honestly, you gotta have a drill bit and patience. Once you get those 2 in, it's easy to actually just put the old one on, mount those 2 at the same time, then mark out the 2 holes. That was super easy. I'm going to say I'll call it a 3. I'll just call it a 3. It's a few more things while I'm back here. I got the integrated tail light, which, let me actually turn the bike on so you can actually see it working. So with the integrated, the running light, at least how I got it, I didn't modify it or nothing. How I got it was the outer lights is the running lights. Center light is the brake light. So there's the integrated tail light. Ease of install on that, as long as you know about the wires on the KP Mini, the whole orange and blue wire. If you know about that already, bolt straight up, and I'm just going to say that's a easy 2. Now, I also did a fender delete. Now that one's a little bit more on the difficult side. Now I should actually pull out my other KP. Give me 1 second. So basically I went from this to this. So fender delete, honestly, I'm going to call that one a 5. It's not hard, it's not easy, you just have to have what you need. So I ended up doing it by hand, which I still actually have to grind that down and actually spray paint that, clean everything up, just so it doesn't rust anymore. But yeah, for those who know, you already know about the fender delete. There's no options on these, so you have to actually open this up. You gotta, excuse me, you gotta open it up, you gotta like cut it, and then there's a frame in here that actually holds the plastic together and everything. So yeah, you have to actually like cut that, and this is the result. Or you could just completely remove it. Now, if you completely remove it, if I'm not mistaken, there's 2 bolts on the side. I forgot exactly what they're supposed to be holding on, only because I haven't taken it off in so long. But yeah, I don't know if I was to take this out how it would look, so I'm gonna just leave it on. Now, while I'm still back here, I'm gonna go over a couple differences. So I'm gonna start over here with the rear sets. Now, CB190R rear set, it's currently set up in GP shift, which I've just grown comfortable with, so I'm gonna leave it in GP shift. I'm actually getting ready to find a different gear lever because I just don't like this whole linkage setup, so I gotta figure out how I'm gonna get a pedal from there to here. I'll figure that out, don't worry about that. But ease of install on these, they don't come with instructions, so you have to know where the spacers go, because when I got them, if I'm remembering correct, these just weren't bolted on, but they did come complete. You just had to put the pegs on, which these pegs did not come with it. I'll get into that in a minute. Ease of install on the rear sets though. This side doesn't run spacers. This side doesn't run spacers down bottom, but it runs spacers up top. So as long as you know where the spacers go, it's pretty fucking easy. I'm gonna call the install on the rear sets at 3. Cool. Now, before I forget to mention it, this is actually set up in GP shift because originally, if you see where the kickstand is, this bar has the original foot pegs, which is this. So when I originally installed it, I just couldn't shift it in normal shift because of the foot peg being in the way. So that's why it's in GP shift. Now, I'm gonna step over here. Talk about these folding pegs. These are actually Harley pegs. This rear set actually came with solid pegs. I wanted a folding peg just in case it leans over or whatever the case is. At least it's not gonna break the fucking peg. Cool. I ended up getting the same folding pegs that I'm running on this bike, right, with the spring loaded and everything. But then I remembered that these pegs actually have little to no grip. That's why if you look right here, I have a literal grip on there because yeah, I got tired of my foot sliding on it. That, and it's short, so I actually had to, with this setup, I might have to put my other phone down to show you. I had to actually add a spacer behind the actual peg because it was just very short. Otherwise my foot was like sunken like almost an inch in. With that being said, I got the Harleys, but then I actually had to figure out the mount, which is why that's black and this is red. This mount, I actually had to drill the hole out on the rear set. So basically where my foot is right now, that's where it's going to stay. I do still have access to move the whole plate around, but as far as moving the peg, because I drilled out that hole, I don't think there's enough meat in the other two if I wanted to relocate my foot. So with that being said, there was that, and also the spring plate. I forgot what the hell these plates are called, but I could only get one on each side. When I initially did it, it was super tight. Now they're super loose. I don't even care. Ease of install on that, I'm gonna say that was more like a, realistically, that was more like a 5, because it was trying to line up the pin with the peg while sliding the peg in, and also the I guess that would be a spring. It was just lining everything up. Luckily for me, I did everything like at home. I got the package and I was inside, so I just decided to put it together. Cool. There's also my custom plate mount. Now, originally I did get the fender eliminator kit, but because suspension was bottoming out or whatever, I ended up, literally, I was out riding with my boy. He was on my Vader and I was riding this one, and we ended up stopping somewhere, cool, whatever. My plate almost fell off, the plate and the turn signals. So I was able to make it home, and I just removed the whole thing. Ended up relocating it right here, which I actually literally just put this one on, because prior to this I only had the top zip tied to here. I've been using it as a chain guard, realistically. But it's just a matter of figuring out how you want to mount your plate. Everybody wants different looks, so realistically, however you want to mount your plate is up to you. But for me, it works, and it was very easy to do. I'm gonna call that well, I had the brackets. I had L brackets, so that made it super easy. I'm gonna call that a 2. Call that a 2, only because I had to drill the holes in the license plate, and I had to figure out the fitment and making sure that it's not rubbing on the chain. So, call that a easy 2. Next up, while we back here, I'm gonna talk about the combination. So, gold 428 link chain. The front sprocket is a 17 tooth sprocket. The rear sprocket is a 30 tooth Superlight RS7 sprocket. That's bolted onto a Gromfather's billet race hub, the Cushless hub. And all of that is going through a set of Grom extension blocks. Now, I'm gonna break it down like this. Ease of install on the sprockets. Alright, well, realistically, front sprocket, I did that while the engine was actually off and being installed. Call that a 1. The chain, it was just a matter of figuring out how many links I needed, because I did order a chain that was just not extremely too long, but it was too long. So there was a matter of figuring out how many links I was gonna need and the length with my stretch kit. Ease of install on the chain, I'm just gonna call that a 3, mainly because of my setup. The hub bolts right on, it just goes right into the KP mini wheel. That's the one thing I can say. This wheel shares almost the same specs as a Grom wheel, almost, with certain aspects. So the hub side is exactly the same as a Grom wheel. That went straight on. That does not go onto a clone wheel, I will say that. Call that a 1 because it just right in. The extension blocks, these are a little bit more tedious to do. Now, admittedly, I have a full video on me doing the stretch on this bike. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. But admittedly, yesterday I actually kind of resolved the issue that I started to have within a couple days. But ease of install on these, realistically, I'm just gonna say a 5. As long as you have a jack and you know where to jack the bike up at, it's about a 5. Cool. Now I'm gonna swing on over to this side, because there's a thing over here that I am working on still, actually. Now, with that being said, it's the rear brakes. As you can see, there's a little bit of scuffs and whatnot. That's just because of, actually using it and it not properly working. So basically, when I first installed this, right, I had to figure out how I was gonna mount the caliper, because initially the stretch kit comes with a bracket that bolts through here that's supposed to be like the same as the original on the swing arm. The only thing is it has a pivot point because of this bolt. So when I went to hit the brakes, when I first installed it, I locked up the brake, which was perfect, but when I did that, it actually rolled the caliper over. So yeah, that ended up causing that. So I ended up coming up with my own kind of bracket. It holds it in to where it's not gonna go either way when you hit the brake. Like, you can go back while holding the brake and it just does a little bump. Go forward, it does a little bump. But brakes, yeah, this big brake kit, ease of upstall. I said ease of upstall, god damn it. Ease of install. That's going to be I'm being honest with you, it's figuring out a whole bunch of shit here. So I'm gonna put this one on a little bit more difficult scale out of the things that I've done on this bike. It's more like a 7, honestly. It's more like a 7. You got to figure out spacing on the wheel with the caliper, and then it's just spacing realistically. As long as you can figure that part out, you're good to go. Swinging on over back to the front, got the 665mm red adjustable forks. Well, red and gold. I went with the adjustable forks because I have the adjustable forks on that bike back there. Those are gold though. Now, I do like them on that other bike. I did kind of tune it when I installed it, but I didn't actually fully tune my suspension because that bike is running an adjustable rear shock. I bought an adjustable rear shock for this bike. It was leaking, so I had to send it back. It is what it is. I ordered another one. I'm waiting for that to come in. When it comes in, I'll install that one. But going back to the forks, ease of install on these. Once again, as long as you have a jack and you know where to jack the bike up at. That's the number one thing about everything that I do. You have to know where to jack up the bike at to where it won't fall. These came right out and went right in. Well, the old ones, those gold ones right there, came right out, and these red ones went right in. Bolted straight up. Everything, the caliper bolts right up, the fender bolts right up, the brackets bolt right up. I'm going to just say it's a 2, maybe a 3, only because once again, it's just the whole jacking point. Next on the list of things to talk about is going to be this wideband gauge. Now, it works just like this. When I turn the bike on, it comes on. Now, because I don't have the sensor actually connected, I just have the gauge plugged up. That's all I get until I actually get the O2 sensor or the O2 bung welded on, and then I can put the O2 sensor in. Ease of install on this, only because of my setup, I ended up tucking the box somewhere under the tank, and I got the plug for the O2 sensor like somewhere like back here, so then that way when I do get the O2 bung installed, I could just route the wire to the opposite side, because I'm going to end up putting the O2 sensor in that direction and having to go like that. Ease of install on this one, I'm just going to say that one was more like a 3, only because it's just figuring out location for things with my bike. I'm running out of space. I'm running out of space. Okay, next I'm going to talk about the front wheel. So as you can see, this front wheel and this front wheel are not the same front wheel. Stock on the KP Mini, they come with a 2.5 wide front on a 110/70/12. This one is a Vader front wheel, if I'm remembering correct, and it's running Grom specs. So Grom spec is 3.5 in the rear and a 2.75 up front. The KP is a 3 rear, 2.5 front. And the front tire is also a 120/70/12, so it's Grom spec. Ease of install on this one, once again, as long as you have a jack and you know where to jack it from, you can get this done in a couple minutes. As long as you have a wheel, tire, and everything, it just bolts right up. I'm just gonna say that's a 2. Next up on the list, we got the engine mount. Now, let me actually grab the original engine mount just so I can show you the difference. Even though I have that bike right there, I want to show you the difference. All right, so what I have here is actually the original engine mount for this bike. Now you see those two holes, the bigger one, those two go right there. This bottom one bolted right in, but while I was trying to install the engine, I was having a little bit of difficulties only because of like fitment. Like I couldn't get this mount in because I had to actually open up the tabs on it to actually push the engine back. So what I ended up doing was I had the engine mounted on all 4 of these bolts, but that hole right there, I drilled that one out. Where that half moon is, that was the original hole. So I did have it mounted on this mount on the bike, but that hole wasn't lined up. So cool, ended up getting that one lined up, and then I ended up discovering that only thing I had to do was, this is the same stock mount. Only thing I had to do was bore the hole down a little bit, so then that way I can get the bolt through, and it works. Ease of install on these. At least for my setup, because once again, this is the 300 and it's not the stock 150. That's not even stock 150. That's a 250. It should bolt directly up to a stock 150. You won't need any tools. So if you're putting it on a stock 150, I'm going to say it is a easy one, and it's definitely worth it because you also get the engine protection, and it's actually a way thicker plate. If I had to guess, the plate is probably about 3 to 4 times thicker than this metal. So it does absorb some of the vibrations as well. Now, in my case, because I almost forgot to mention that, I'm gonna say for my install, only because I did run the bike without that engine mount for like, I think a week or two. It was running, but I did feel the engine kind of like jerk a little bit in the frame. So finally got that figured out. For my setup, once again, I'm gonna say this on the difficulty scale was like a 3, only because I had to figure out that top mount. Next up, I want to talk about that pretty little wang. Yeah, you see that thing, that pretty little wang. Without, with, without, with, without, with. Ease of install on this is matter of figuring out alignment. Realistically, I don't even have it centered. I can actually see how not centered it is. It's actually off a little bit, just a little bit, but it's almost completely centered. Now, with that being said, I did have to actually cut out some plastic, if you look right here, just so the fork can just so it can go around the fork. I'm going to say this one was more like a 2-3. If you're not crafty, it's going to be a little bit more difficult, but you have to be crafty to figure it out. Next on the list is going to be the adjustable CDI. You see how that 9 just popped up? The bike is cold. I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to show you anyway. 0 is speed limit mode on my CDI, which limits it to 6,000 RPM. So while I was breaking this engine in, I only had it set to 6,000 RPM, so that way I wasn't over revving it or nothing too crazy. But realistically, with my gearing and my whole setup at 6,000 RPM in 5th gear, my top speed was, I believe, 69 miles per hour. And mind you, I still have a whole, I believe, at least 4,000, maybe 5,000 RPMs to go. This engine might go up to 12. I'm not exactly too sure, only because right now I still can't fully rev it because I need to tune the car, but I'm not talking about that right now. So here's 6,000 RPM. And then here's anything after that. So realistically, I'm still not sure exactly of what the numbers do, but if I had to guess, I would say 5 would be like stock. Anything under 5 is retard, is the timing being retarded, and anything above 5 is the timing being advanced. If I had to guess, I've been riding around with it at 9, just because I think that will be the most performance. I think, not too sure. Ease of install on that, it just plugs right in, and then it's a matter of figuring out where you want to locate this. You don't have to put it here. I did. Call it a 1. Next thing on the list is going to be the pretty little oil cooler that's sitting up here. Now with this, honestly, I'm not gonna say I'm having a bit of difficulties, because I don't think I'm having any. I'll actually fully confirm that with my next oil change, which I will be doing after I record this video. The thing with it was, because I'm running an inline filter, at one point I was unsure if there was actually oil going through, but the more I ride, the more I'm noticing that it's actually getting darker. But I don't feel any heat coming through. So I don't know if maybe it's just the oil in the line that's it just goes up right here, and then maybe I don't know. But I will say this, because I did opt to get a different inline filter versus getting the kit that comes with the inline filter that houses the filter that's in here. I'm currently still running the strainer in here. I don't know if that might be my issue or not, but I think I'm gonna end up taking that out just so I could see if it's actually gonna flow. That, and I'm also running regular oil on this while I was breaking it in. So I'm actually getting ready to go back to synthetic, which I was running 10W40, but I'm about to switch to 5W40, because if I'm remembering how the numbers work, 5W40 is actually a thinner oil than 10W40. So with that being said, I'm hoping when I do this oil change to actually see the oil start to flow through the oil cooler, and I'm hoping to not see that bubble. Realistically though, ease of install on this oil cooler is a matter of figuring out location. Once again, I got mine mounted to the old horn bracket, and because it has 2 tabs on it, I made an L bracket to actually mount it over here. I forgot what this mount is. Oh yeah, for the actual the plastics. So I made an L bracket that goes from there to here, just to hold it. And one thing I will actually mention is, if I turn lock the lock, I hit the oil cooler. I don't have full lock the lock on this bike. Like, you see how far or not far this one is compared to that. So yeah, you see how much more open that is? You see how less open that one is? So yeah, with that being said, I do hit the oil cooler. I mean, I'm not stressing it, I don't really care, but ease of install on the whole thing. Realistically, I'm just gonna say it's about a 5, only because once again, it's just my setup. Figuring out if it's actually running through. I didn't buy the kit. This oil cooler actually came with my other ZS190, because I bought 2 of those originally. That one's 190 swapped, and then I got another box with a 190 in it that I took this oil cooler from. Just ended up buying an inline filter just so I didn't have to get the whole kit, because I didn't feel the need to buy the kit when I already had an oil cooler and line. Only thing I needed was just the adapter. So yeah, like I said, about a 5 just for my setup. Next up, we got the horn. So I'm actually running, I believe this is a Hella horn, if I'm remembering correct. Either way, if I'm remembering correct, this one is actually the low pitch. It's higher than the stock, which I don't even have the key for that bike on me. I do. One second. Actually, never mind. I don't have a battery in this bike. But either way, this one's actually a low horn. I have a high one. Well, this came with a low and a high. The high is on another bike. Put the low on this one because I didn't have it. The original brackets that it came on, it actually broke. So if you look at the oil cooler, you'll see that there's a bent fins that came from my horn actually dangling while I was riding. So I just removed it, rode home, and changed the mount. So it's a more sturdy mount. It doesn't vibrate, it's not rattling, none of that. Ease of install and everything on that horn, because I had to relocate it as well. I'm just going to say that was an easy little 2. And realistically, it's just because I had to figure out a more solid mount. over the stock flimsy mount, which would be this. I had this mounted under here. Yeah, I mean, it works though, so I ain't even sweating it. And as far as mods goes, at least as it sits right now, last but not least, I did change that rotor. So if you look at that rotor, you see how it's black? You look at that rotor, you see how it's silver? That's the stock KP. Because I was still running the stock rear at the time, I changed it to that one, which the stock rear, as you can see, has the black center versus the front. I don't understand why they did that, but yeah, that's it. A few little things that I actually forgot to mention were, I did the bracket, right? Cool. Well, I made that bracket myself, so I did it by hand, and realistically, just because I did it by hand, it made it more difficult because I don't have the power tools to do it. If you got power tools, doing something like that will actually be pretty fucking easy. It'll realistically be like a 2 out of 10, but for my setup, it was more like a 5 or 6. Then there is also like nuts and bolts. I got the muffler mounted where the old foot brake. This is the old foot brake location. This is the same spacer that they use inside of here for the pivot. Right? So I used that to mount the muffler. Also had to figure out how I was gonna center mount my exhaust because I've had it actually like hang on me while I was riding. What else? These bolts came with the brackets, which they're actually pretty good fucking bolts. I just had to retighten those up, I think like 200 miles ago. What else was it? It's just little things. Dot 4, I believe it is. Motul 600 for now, until I actually change out the lines, and then I'm gonna end up going to 660. Little fit and finish things, like making sure the plastic is gonna fit around my carburetor. What else? And I was really trying to go with a OEM look, to where you look at it, you can't even tell that I've done anything really extra to it, outside of maybe like the red accents. And there's also tinting the taillight. I actually forgot to mention that part. So it didn't come like this. I actually did tint it myself, and if I'm being honest, this shows you how difficult it is. So yeah, it was just a matter of figuring out how I was gonna get it to all come together. But tinting, I'm gonna be honest with you, you have to know what you're doing here, because if you don't, you're gonna get results like this. I didn't know what I was doing. I tried my best. Admittedly, I did. I tried my best, but it didn't work. So I mean, it's working. I'm gonna leave it on until it starts to really peel, then I'll just peel it off. I'm gonna say that's about a 5. Honestly, that's about a 5. One more thing. This foot peg right here is actually the original foot peg for this bike. This one came on this bike. Why did I put that one on here? Because the right peg was actually bent. It didn't make sense for me to cut a good bar and keep a bad one on a good bike. So I put a good bar on a good bike, and I cut the bad bar so I can eliminate the foot pegs, which I was initially going to do anyway for my setup. And it was looking better. It's definitely looking better than when I had both pegs up there, because I did still have the front pegs. I was riding like that for like a month. Actually, like 2 months. Now, I know y'all probably looking like, wait a minute, it didn't look like this earlier. Yeah, that's because this is the next day. My phone died on me while I was recording this video, so I ended up going home, putting it on the charger, and I had a couple packages. Anyway, installed a CarPlay unit. So with this, because it's wired directly to the battery, I actually don't have to have the bike running. I could just turn it on and off. Realistically, I'm thinking about taking off this screen protector because, yeah, it's just ugly. But realistically, I like it so far. Like I said, I just installed it last night. Now, the thing with this CarPlay unit is I still have to actually program the sensors, but basically this is the Android Auto side of things. If I was playing music right now, because I don't pay for premium as of right now, I could be playing music, but it would come out of my phone if I'm not mistaken, because this does not have a speaker on it. Not the point. So you get the CarPlay, you get a couple apps on it. Well, Android Auto or CarPlay. I have Android, so I use Android Auto. You can actually have it cover the full screen. You can do the left side or the right side. I decided to put mine on the right. And this button right here actually controls screens. So camera 1 is right here. Camera 2, got that one right there. And camera 3, I got that one right there. Now, ease of install. I'm going to rate this a 3 out of 10 only because you have to figure out wiring. And they ain't even figuring out wiring. Is realistically figuring out where you're going to route the wires. Now, as I'm doing more and more to this bike, I'm losing less space under the frame. So, with that being said, when I went to install it, I didn't do a full install. I actually still have to reroute the wires, so I'm actually going to make a whole install video on just that, but I digress. 3 out of 10. Real simple to install, and it's actually pretty fucking good so far. Cameras actually are kind of clear for what they are. I'm hoping I could actually use this to get some ride-on videos. That's the main reason why I actually bought the 3-camera one, so I could actually point it at the gauge, because if you look right here, I'm trying to get it without any shadows. So yeah, you can see it on screen, but anyway, I want it to be to where you can actually see it while I'm riding, so you can see how fast I'm going, all this extra shit. That, and you can actually see the numbers on the AFR gauge. But I digress. Back to the video. With all of that being said, every build has its highs and its lows. So now I'm gonna get to the point where I break down the pros and cons of a 300 in your KP Mini. Pro number 1, honestly, is the quality. Like, admittedly, the KP Mini stock from the factory overall feels like a better riding bike than, I would say, my other clones that I've rode. And I've rode 5 of my clones. Actually, I'll just say 3 different ones. So I rode my Little Monster, I rode my Vader, which I dailied the Little Monster, I dailied the Vader, and I rode my Fuerza, which I haven't really done much with. I still have to actually get back to that build, but I digress. And then I've rode these 2 KPs right here. Neither one of them have I rode while they were stock 150s. This one is a 250, push ride. And then this one's the 304 valve. Never rode a stock one, but this one definitely feels better than that one. Because when I got this one, it only had 10 miles. This one, I'm still curious about how many miles is actually on this bike. I think it's over 4,000 miles, I think. But yeah, overall, better build quality, definitely. Pro number 2 about the KP Mini 150 is going to be the engine swap options. So, this one, as you can see, has a 304 valve, and that one has a CG250. Hey. This one's stretched, that one's not. Hey, you know, so like, super easy to bolt in. That's all I'm gonna say. Super easy. Like I said, the only thing I had to do was just a little modification to that front mount. And figure out exhaust. That's the number 1 thing, is figuring out exhaust. I think I got exhaust figured out for this bike, but I'm really focusing on this bike, honestly. Pro number 3 with my bike is going to be that carburetor right there, right? I'm gonna get into it a little bit more later, but that carburetor right there, okay? When I tell you, it feels so much better than all the other carbs that I've used so far. You get throttle all the way through. The only thing is, right now at least, because I'm still in the process of tuning it, let me show you full throttle, and I'm gonna move on to the next pro. That was full throttle. Now look, I'm not going full throttle. So yeah, I'll move on to the next thing. Next pro on the list is going to be the Ergos. Now you see that bike in the background? That is an Ice Bear Little Monster. The SSR Rascal, the I think Boom Lil Duke. It goes by many different names. The Flywing E-Monster, the Monster 150. There's just so many different variants of that body style. It's not funny, but I digress. That bike, I love the ergos of that bike. When you're actually sitting on it, you sit in. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean, right? Cool. On a Vader, you sit on it. So if you know what I mean, you know what I mean. This one is more like a comfortable in between. You're not too high up and you're not too sunk in, so you do get a bit of a sports bike feel because you're still sunk in, but you get a bit of a I'm not too versed in motorcycles yet, but I would say you get more of a cruiser feel. I think, no, it's not a cruiser. It don't feel like a sports bike necessarily. That feels more like a sports bike than this one does, but this one feels more like a sports bike than a Vader does. So there's that. Ergonomics, they're pretty fucking good. And then for pro number 5, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. If you were ever considering getting a Grom and having the thoughts of even 300 swapping it, 250 swapping it, or whatever, here's my honest suggestion to you. Go on Facebook Marketplace. Type in KP Mini. It don't matter. Just type in KP Mini and find one that is under $1,000. That makes it make sense, right? You get a KP Mini 150 for under $1,000. Spend a couple $100 on an engine. You can go any route. Like, you just have to figure out which one's bolt in. I can definitely tell you the ZS175FMN bolts in that minimal modification. Same thing with the 167 FMM. FMM. Frank Mary Mary. So let me just show you this one over here too, so you can see that one if it'll focus. There we go. So, with minimal modifications, these engines bolted straight in. This engine was cheaper than that engine for obvious reasons. It's not a performance engine. That's a dirt bike engine, and that's more of a performance dirt bike engine. The only reason why I say it's performance dirt bike is because it's the 5-speed non-counterbalanced. The 6-speed version, if I had to guess, would be the street bike engine because it's counterbalanced. Honestly, I paid under 33% of MSRP for this bike. It only had 10 miles on it when I bought it. If you can find a good deal like that, snatch it up immediately, right? Now, I'm going to also say this. I spent a little bit more on this one when I bought it because it was supposed to be a runner, almost new bike, than I did on this one with the blown engine when I bought it. Cool. But either way, you find a good deal on the KP Mini, you get it. I bought this one first. It needed the engine, so I bought that engine, and then I bought this bike. But then by the time that engine came in, I was about to get this bike ready to start dailying it with the 150, so I looked at both bikes and said, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. You're getting a 300, so you can go. And that's exactly what I did. One thing I will mention as well is I've been on Facebook, on Marketplace, searching. I look every day. I'm just looking. Can't tell me I can't. But anyway, I'm seeing the stock KP Mini 150s with over 1,000, over 2,000 miles, going for over $1,500. So like I said, that was the cheapest one I got. This one was a little bit more than that one. Didn't run. I never got the 150 to run on this one. I just put the 300 in and that one started right up. I am currently, if I had to guess, because I haven't actually been keeping track of my spending on the builds, but if I had to guess, I'm somewhere close to, if not just over, the price of a brand new KP Mini 150 SS3, the fuel injected version. Because the fuel injected, if I'm remembering correct, the pricing is like $800 to $1,000 more than the carbureted bikes. But I'm just about there, if not more. Like I said, I might have spent a little bit more on everything that I'm buying and doing with it right now. It's definitely worth it. I say buy used, don't buy new, because you can build better. And next on the list, just gonna jump straight in and tell you, the cons is going to be this rear brake. Not this one specifically, but this rear brake. It's so pathetic. It's so puny. Like, why is it so small? Why? The Groms and Grom clones, their rotor sizes are a 220 millimeter in the front with the 2-piston caliper, and then you got a 190 millimeter in the rear with a single piston. That's the Groms and Grom clones. KP Mini, I couldn't even tell you the size of that rotor. I definitely know it's smaller than 190. Definitely know that much. And I don't like that. I don't like that. So that is what I went with. Con number 2 is going to be wheel options. So me personally, well, in modifications and wheel options, I'm gonna just combine that into one thing, because I'm going for a look, right? I want the bike to have a not a very specific look, but a very specific look. I want it to look like this is how it came straight out the box, and you just did a couple things to it, right? And I also want it to stand out from all other KP Minis. Right now, it does stand out because of the 300, that front wheel, the wing. It's a couple things that make it stand out from all other KP Minis. But at the same time, it does still blend in. I look at pictures of my bike and I look at pictures of every other bike that's the same theme, the black and red, and it almost looks exactly the same. Almost. There's slight differences, like the red that pops out, realistically, the forks and the rotor and the engine. But either way, it's there's no options out there. There's literally zero options as far as like wheels. Mods, that's a different story. The front end, that's Grom stuff. Everything behind that, that's a different story. So based on some of the research that I've done, you got a XR100 frame, basically. That's essentially what it is. With a bit of Grom, CB, 190R. I think there was another bike. I think it might be a CRF, if I'm remembering correct, because XRs and CRFs almost share the same platform, if I'm remembering. But yeah, so mods, that's been hard to find, okay? I've been having to make shit work, like that wing and the foot pegs and the brakes and the exhaust for the engine and, you know, stuff like that. So, yeah. Now for con number 3, gonna go back to the carb. So, y'all heard me rev it earlier. That is a tuning issue. That's all it is. These FCRs are harder to tune. I knew that off rip when I bought it. I originally wanted the FCR because my boy, once again, who has the YZ400F with the metal militias in blue, his YZ has an FCR on it. Stock, they come with FCRs. It's not the knockoff. It actually has all the vents and everything on it. And I was helping him tune that one last year. And while I was doing that, I was like, you know what? Because of how I am, I would like to figure it out on my own time and not feel like I'm being forced to figure things out. So I figured if I buy myself FCR carbs, I can learn how to tune them. So then that way, if anybody has an FCR carb, I can help you figure out how to tune yours. So yeah, there's that's a con. Con number 4 is going to be vibrations. Now, just like any of the other bikes, they vibrate. Engines vibrate. That's just what they do. Now, I'm pretty sure even the counterbalance engine vibrates, just not nearly as violent. I wouldn't even say it's violent, just not nearly as much. With that being said, sometimes I do hear things rattling. Like, I'll hear this just while I'm riding, it just rattling and shit. There's a couple things that I'll just randomly hear and I'll be like, what is that? So, vibrations. They're not bad. They're livable, but they are noticeable. And then last but not least, at least for my setup, is going to be the exhaust, right? That's con number 5. So finding exhaust that bolts up to this engine and the bike, that's been a thing. There are no options. You have to make one. It's just that simple. You have to make one. Or you can buy one that almost bolts on and then just make that fit, which is what I'm about to do with this one. And next up on our list, I'm going to tell you about the random things that I've noticed in the 1,000 miles that I've been riding this bike. So for starters, let me actually start the bike so you can see it. The daytime running lights don't work. That stopped working, I want to say under 500 miles. Don't know why. It's plugged up, it works and everything. It's plugged up. I don't know why. That one still works, this one doesn't. A part of me wants to take that one, but I don't like the fact that the cover, well, the lens is scratched up. So that's the reason why I didn't do it. I'm fine with no daytime running lights. It is what it is. Next thing is, while I've been tuning, because I've been going through various different tunes with this FCR, I haven't tuned it in a minute, but where I'm currently at right now, I do have very good throttle response, right? Like I said, I can go about 70%, and then after that, that's when it starts to ping or whatever. Cool. Actually, while I'm here, there's actually another thing. So the throttle for this bike also came in yesterday. So I don't know if it's going to be the next video or not, but definitely going to see that throttle on this bike and this throttle back on that bike over there, because once again, bought this throttle for that bike. Cool. Another thing that I noticed was, I want to say within the past few days, I have been getting a random shake in the rear, and I know exactly what it is. I actually resolved it, what, like 2 days ago? Yeah, I resolved that issue like 2 days ago while I was out here, but I did want to actually point it out. So for those of y'all who are considering running the stretch kit, you see how there's that space right there in between? You have to fill the space. I filled mine, but on this side, this is the one that was actually loose. So I had to slide the damn thing in further back, so then that way the back side doesn't pivot. It is what it is. I'm actually working on something different to actually slide in there, but for now it's not shaking. Another thing while I'm right here is the tire. So I don't know if it's just because I've been sliding it or not. I know sliding will cause feathering, cool, but I'm actually feeling like abnormal wear on the tire itself. I'm not sure if it's maybe just shitty quality tire, or maybe it's just not rated for what I'm doing with it, but either way, this one's definitely going to be just a bullshit slide around tire. If anything, I'm not really going to commute on this. I don't plan on that. Another thing to mention is I actually do feel a difference between this bike right here and that KP right there. The main difference is I actually do feel the wheel and stretch. I actually do feel it. So that front tire, once again, that one's a 1/4 inch wider than a stock KP, and the tire aspect ratio went up 10 over the KP, but I actually do feel it, mainly probably because of the stretch. Now, it's not a bad feeling, maybe because I'm used to it. If for somebody that's not used to it, I don't know exactly how to explain it, but yeah, I like the way it feels versus that one, honestly. Another thing is I've been getting this question a lot. What's your top speed? I don't know. I can't go full throttle. So I haven't really been trying to do top speed runs until I get this bike tuned. But I will say this. At one point, this was on a previous tune, I was able to go 86 miles per hour, at least according to the dash. That day, I wasn't even expecting to really go out, so I didn't put on the recorder, the GPS tracker recorder, whatever it is. So I couldn't even tell you the GPS verified speed for that. But if I had to guess, just based off of looking at my top speed at 6,000 RPM on the gauge and on the app, if I'm not mistaken, it's like 6 miles per hour off or something like that. So realistically, if I was doing 86 according to the dash, I'm just gonna say I was probably doing like 78 to like 82 miles per hour realistically. And once again, that's with the not fully tuned carb. I can go 3/4 throttle right now and it goes, but I can't just fully crack it open. So with that being said, it just is what it is. I gotta finish tuning it, and then I'll actually be able to tell y'all what the top speed is of this bike. But with my gearing, I'm hoping to achieve 100 miles per hour plus. So there's that. If I didn't already mention it, which I'm pretty sure I already did, with the CDI set on 0, that speed limit mode, it limits it to 6,000 RPM. And at 6,000 RPM in 5th gear, banging off of the limiter, I'm doing 69 miles per hour. GPS verified. GPS verified. I'm actually still unsure what the rev limit is on the engine itself. If I'm not mistaken, I think I seen around like 10.5. I have to relook just to verify. But with that being said, I was doing 69 miles per hour at 6,000 RPM, which means that's about 12 miles per hour per. Actually, no, I forgot. I was doing math on it. I forgot the whole math behind it that I was doing. But yeah, the goal is to achieve 100 miles per hour plus, so then that way I can cruise comfortably on the highway at 80 miles per hour without being too high in the RPM. So realistically, if I could be around 8,000 RPM, I'm fine with that. Just cruising at 80 miles per hour. Realistically, I would prefer to really be a little bit under that, but 8,000, I'll be fine with 8,000 RPM. Another thing I actually do want to talk about is this thing does feel light in the wind. Like when you're on the road and you're just riding and that wind pushes you, it pushes. Okay, I'm just being honest. Admittedly, I think this one has been getting pushed harder than the other bikes that I've rode in the same scenarios. I don't understand it. I mean, I'm fine with it. I'll figure out how to not crash and burn, but yeah, there's also that. And then I'm still unsure if the oil is actually flowing through the cooler, which I mentioned. I'm actually getting ready to actually do the oil change. I didn't get to do it yesterday because I installed that when I bought my phone inside to put it on the charger. But because of the oil cooler, I actually have to do a certain procedure to do the oil change, right? So I'm actually gonna have to open the line up, blow the oil through the cooler so it comes down the bottom line, blow into the filter so that way it goes down. I have to fill the engine up, like overfill it basically, suck it through the oil cooler from this side, check the oil. Actually, no, suck it through both sides. Right, suck it through the oil cooler itself first, then suck it through the filter with my pump, and then check the oil and add more. Hopefully add more, because I don't want to add too much to the point where I'm completely overfilled. If that does happen, it's not like I can't just use the damn pump to suck that oil out. Next thing on the list I want to talk about is future plans that I have for the build, right? A couple things I got lined up is going to be upgraded wheels and tires, which I'm actually in the process of working on right now. Don't worry about that. I'll drop a video when it's ready. Cool. I'm gonna have to finish up that exhaust as far as getting the O2 bung welded on and getting the pipe fitted flush in the head. I gotta finish doing the brake upgrade. So I did the rear. I just have to change the line for the rear to a braided line. Gotta get a braided line for the front. My caliper bracket came in. I'm just waiting on the caliper to come in. My front rotor came in. Just gonna need another line. I got a master up here, and I got another master for the clutch. Master for the clutch is going to end up being converted to, you know, hydraulic. I'm going from cable to hydraulic clutch. I already have the master. I have the slave cylinder. I just need to get a line for it. Going braided stainless steel all around as far as the hydraulic lines go. I'm going to want to port this head. I want a good port job done on this head. I'm going to end up doing that myself. While the head is off, I'm going to end up doing a thread cert for the spark plug, so then that way I can prevent any future accidents from happening as far as that goes. I already cleaned up the threads once with the back tap. It's a good tool to have. I just don't feel like I'm going to want to use it anymore. So with that being said, I would prefer to just throw a thread cert in there. It's actually better metal than the engine itself. I'm definitely going to want to run a steering damper with the speeds that I'm trying to go with this bike. You see that hole right there? Yeah, that hole right there lets me know that I can run, I believe, the Grom Scott style steering damper if I wanted to run that one. Or I would have to figure out how I'm going to run one of the other ones that look like a shock. Yeah, I'm going to have to figure out which one I want to run and then go from there. Another thing that I do plan on doing is lights, custom lights. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but I'm going to figure it out. Don't worry about that. I did order something as far as the front goes. I want to figure out the back, and I want to figure out them turn signals. But I digress. Another thing is I'm actually working on a little dog box. I want to bring my dog out with me on rides and shit. So with that being said, that's why the bike actually has a rack on it versus the grab handle, because I specifically want to bring my dog with me. So it's just a matter of figuring out how I'm going to mount a little crate, because realistically I want to use a milk crate, throw it sideways. If I'm not mistaken, not the square, the rectangle one, sit it like that, put a dog bed in it, and then figure out how I'm going to block the wind from coming around it and how I'm going to have them strapped in it. But that's the goal for that rack right there. I was considering doing bar end mirrors. I was, but with the addition of this, honestly, I don't feel the need to. As long as I just keep the camera pointed behind me while I'm riding, I don't feel the need to have rear view mirrors. And then last but not least, as far as future mods goes, I want to figure out slapping a turbo on this bitch. Just being honest with you. Me personally, I would prefer to have it hidden under the seat. So, you know, I get that real sleeper look. That's the whole thing with this. I want it to just look like this. But if I run it like that, the only thing is intake's going to be on this side. That's cool. Exhaust is going to have to come out through here. And then I'd probably just get it routed up and under. I do have a dual pipe that I could slide under there, but now I got the camera under there, so I'd have to figure that out. But anyway, yeah, see, I'm adding more things, and I got to figure out other things because of location and all of that stuff. But either way, I would prefer to hide the turbo versus how everybody else is doing it, where they got their turbos stuck out of the front or it's off to the side. Only thing with that is going to be figuring out, if I do it that way, it's going to be figuring out how am I going to get the best functioning out of it, because the turbo would go directly into the carb. I'm gonna get it all figured out. Like I said, I would prefer to have it there. If I have to not put it there and leave it out front, I already have an idea of where I want to put it at. But yeah, definitely do want to put a turbo on this bike. And there you have it, 1,000 miles on a 300 swap. I've never rode a stock KP Mini, so don't ask me how a stock KP Mini feels compared to this one. That one over there had a blown engine. I bought this engine, put it on this bike. The engine that came off of this bike, I put on that bike, but never got it running because I put 250 on it. So it just is what it is, right? But with that being said, 1,000 miles of endless journeys, and I'm gonna keep going. Don't even stress that. I'm gonna keep going. Now, I'm gonna just need y'all to do me a favor. If you like what you saw today, if you like what you see on my channel, like, comment. Some of y'all are very persistent. Y'all in my comments. I appreciate y'all. Subscribe. If you like what you see, you have any plans of doing something like this, subscribe. I really think you're gonna like this channel because it's definitely worth it. I make my money worth it, okay? So if I make my money worth it for me, I try to make it worth it for everybody. Anybody have any suggestions on what I should do next to it? I told y'all everything that I plan on doing with the bike. I got parts already on their way. But like I said, anybody got any suggestions on what they want to see done next to the bike? Let me know. Drop it down below. Hit me up in the groups, because I'm heavy in the groups. Very heavy. Like, every time I see somebody post something, I'm commenting on it just because I'm not trying to brag or anything. I'm trying to put the information out there to let people know that there are options. That's why I continuously have been posting this one and the 250, because they're the same exact bike with two different engines. That's not stock. So with that being said, if you like what you saw, come back and see me again for another episode of What the Fuck Did He Do Today? Because as you can tell, shit just randomly happens, okay? Shit just randomly happens. I'll see y'all in the next one. See y'all in the next one, yeah.